What's up, guys? Welcome into the NESN studios. Michaela Vernava here along with Matt Chatham. You're watching the NESN pregame chat with Matt Chatham, and we have the Patriots in Philadelphia taking on the Eagles. We're going to check in with our Patriots beat writers who are in Philly in just a bit. But first, Matt, both these teams coming off a bye. The Patriots have had some time to review their film against the Ravens. What do you think they were able to take away from now having some time to reflect on that loss?
It's a good question because it's not nothing, but I think it's probably one of the more unique situations you'll ever see in a Patriots bye week because their pre-bye week opponent was so weird and unusual and sort of an outlier to anything they'll see from that point on. Obviously because the weird Lamar Jackson offense in pistol virtually every single play unless it's straight spread. Every sort of play that they do is predicated off the threat of him taking off at any minute. I mean, this is the fifth leading rusher in the NFL, right? So I think what all that means is you're tested a little bit in your bye week to not overcorrect to things that would only be relevant for that person. And that's actually a lot of the problems they had. So you're going to go into this game, you're facing Carson Wentz and that offense, and they don't have a Marquise Brown. They don't have a Hollywood Brown either, this super fast guy that's going to left to right the formation, help spread things out for both Lamar and the backs. That element's not there. And also, as we mentioned, the quarterback element is dramatically different. There'll be an argument, I guess, to be made once you play Houston here in a couple weeks that, maybe some of those concepts can repeat themselves because Deshaun Watson's not quite as athletic, but he can run a little bit better than I think Wentz does. And the offense, I think, would be a little more open to the kind of things they do, but the Eagles just isn't. Now, say Deshaun Jackson was still healthy, isn't, gone for the season for the Eagles. Say if Alshon was available, not available for today. Say if even Jordan Howard, their version of Mark Ingram, was available, not. I mean, they just have too many missing pieces to where you're going to say, oh, Philly, go try to do all that stuff that hurt the Pats in that game. Now, I said all that, and it's not as if you completely throw it in the trash. You still need to learn a few things. One thing that did happen a lot in the game, and granted it was the Marquise Brown stuff, it was the side-to-side stuff, right? That one Hollywood Brown play where they motioned him, jet motion like you see in college, tap it to him quickly, he's off and going for 18 yards. The Patriots defense didn't react to all of that play. So that's the kind of thing that Eagles are going to look at and say, well, we don't have Deshaun that you see there on your screen, folks. So he'd be the super fast guy that otherwise would have done that potentially. Who do we got? Is it Nelson Aguilar to do that? I don't know, Jordan Matthews is the guy they brought in. Healthy respect for him as a complimentary piece guy because of the time he was here, but he's really not that kind of guy either. The back group's really depleted. Jay Ajayi signed off of the street. Maybe he gets involved. So maybe it's Jay in the backfield with Miles Sanders, the fast back, as this thing. So I think there is a play concept of 2 or 3 that they might try to replicate, but it's pretty narrow. It's not one of these weeks where, whoa, we had all those problems and we're going to have to fix them because those guys are going to come back with the same stuff.
Well, as far as the Patriots go offensively, do you think we'll be seeing a lot of Julian Edelman and Sanu again, or it is supposed to be N'Keal Harry's debut? Yeah. How involved in the offense do you think he'll be?
I think it's a really fun question, I think, from the X's and O's portion of this, because what we did get to see a glimpse of against Baltimore, and this is the thing that won't be wildly different. So I answered that whole Baltimore question relative to only one side of the ball. Defensively, I think the Eagles' defense can take some stuff from that. And their only issue defensively is, the Eagles are going to have to say, well, there are going to be some new bodies now here back and involved, and it's the biggest one clearly is, as you mentioned, Michaela, it's N'Keal Harry. So does adding in a big 6'4" really change the targets formula to your back and forth game that they really got going on well there between Sanu and Jules? That was a fun thing to watch. Now, the Patriots are still not good in red zone. They were 50% again, and we'll get into that more heavily here within the show. But they had a really good thing going, even against Baltimore. I mean, I think your big ugly mark on the day is the fumble that goes back for a score in the other direction. But I think you come away from it going, man, can you imagine this 1-2 punch up and down the field each and every series between Julian, between Sanu, back sometime to the backs, getting them involved either pass game, run game. In my view, that just makes N'Keal Harry this giant sort of cherry on top. He's the accoutrement. He's the guy alongside this thing that can elevate it to something else. But I don't think you come into it absolutely needing him. Why? Because Philip Dorsett's still a really good player. Jacoby Myers, we don't know if he'll be active, but he's someone who can fill in as well. So I think the one thing I've always known about watching this team is Bill Belichick does not do something for nothing, right? He doesn't bring up a 6'4" wide receiver who's probably going to have a pretty minimal role in special teams to do just observation. He's not going to sit there while he's up for a reason, folks. And maybe it's just a minimal play deck that would be more red zone related to go give him 50-50 balls. But maybe, hey, we've been working him out for this long, extended period of time. We now feel he's ready to go, and the guy gets 60 or 70% of the snaps. I mean, that's as plausible as anything with Bill. And that's what makes it difficult if you're Philly, trying to, watch film of the last several weeks. You're going to go back too many weeks, and Sanu's not involved in it. You're going to go back any of the weeks, and Nikhil's not there at all. And there's a good chance that both of those guys are heavily involved on this particular Sunday.
You mentioned the red zone woes that the Patriots have been having. It's really bad. What do they do to improve that?
Score more. That's a really good recommendation there, folks. Thanks for coming. So, no, this is, I think it's one of the situations where they're 50%. And 50% is not exactly middle of the league, but it's not top of league. They're closer to top of league in scoring. They're closer to top of league in most of the offensive metrics. Third down percentage. Running game, they're back a step clearly from a year ago. But the one major thing has been red zone efficiency, and for a team that actually moves the ball quite well. I mean, even on the games they've struggled, I think the one outlier there for that is the Buffalo game. That's the one game where they actually couldn't move the ball very well. But even against Baltimore, they moved it up and down the field. It's just a matter of getting back to these the touchdown efficiency stuff in the red zone. So there are a number of players here, I think, that help them pretty good. I mean, I think it's something where they can be a team that looks virtually nothing like itself in September, October, now how they will in November and December. And this, you don't have to rely upon silly old Matt Chatham's view on this. You can rely on Coach Belichick's view. So the quote that came from Bill this week that I think is the most telling of really anything we heard all week was when sort of pressed on this, so like what did you work on the bye week kind of stuff, and what do you see with the offense going forward, defense going forward, that kind of stuff. Bill went out of his way to mention, and I found it really telling, the guys that would be different in the offense. And so here he set it up this way. Initially he says, well, with the defense, it's going to be the same guys. So all those same guys you saw pre-bye, pretty much all the same dudes after. Their challenge defensively will be new challenges, sort of the type of opponent, the kind of offenses they'll see. Now offensively, and he's kind of asked the same question like I said, offensively, well, we can't tell. We're not going to go try to improve on something. It's going to be a bunch of new people. And what was really telling for me was one of the names he brought up early in the quote was actually Matt Lacoste, the second tight end. And I was like, Bill doesn't usually give those things unprompted. So if he looked at the first half and said, well, that one didn't include Matt Lacoste, but the second half of my season does. Well, they say, okay, they may migrate back to a two tight end situation. Last time we saw Lacoste heavily involved was the Washington game. One of the better days they had on the ground. It was a two tight end blocking situation. Sony had a really nice day. Now, granted, folks, we're a little bit before kickoff here. We're over 2 hours, so I could easily get screwed on this, and he's inactivated. So I'll try not to spend too much time on it, but let's just talk rest of the season. I think Matt Lacoste, alongside Ben, is a package we'll see a lot more of. And so if you've got Lacoste now involved in that red zone, 6'6" body, not Gronk. I hate that I have to even say that disclaimer, but he's tall. And one of the best things he does is sort of be a power forward, basketball body, keep the ball away. He's not going to flex out and catch balls like a wide receiver, but I think he can position and catch stuff from Tom. He'll shoot it in there. You got the most accurate quarterback in the league. And if you put that big body Lacoste in there with Ben as well, and then have Nikhil, and then potentially have, well, usually Jules or Sanu. I mean, you can go shoot with no backs down low. If you just want to have 5 of these big body targets down in the low red area, I'm talking inside the 10. They just have a whole new sort of window before them to see if they can jump through or not. So I think it's exciting. I think, what they'll be as a red zone offense, it won't be a matter of trying to improve upon what they did before, because you'll have as many as 3, possibly 4 guys on the field for these last 7 that were on for a tiny percentage, if at all, in the first. And that's also not mentioning the tackle, which Isaiah Wynn, we all expect to be back next week.
And you mentioned already the many injuries that the Eagles are dealing with right now. No Deshaun Jackson, no Alshon Jeffrey, no Darren Sproles, Jordan Howard not expected to play. Yeah. Given that, what kind of offense do you expect them to roll out against the Patriots?
Yeah, they're a real heavy RPO team, so they're one of the few teams out there that are actually going to have, it's not the RPO being run-pass option, right? So it's a kind of play that's a little too technical, but just the idea here is that the quarterback is making a decision whether or not this is run or pass play, kind of on his own. Off the read, is he going to dump it or are they going to give it away? The issue, though, with these guys as an RPO team is Carson Wentz is a good runner. Carson Wentz is a high 4.7s, 4.8 kind of guy. So he's clearly not Lamar Jackson. He's not Deshaun Watson. He's not even Josh Allen as far as just straight get up and go. But he has some agility. He can run this offense pretty efficiently. He's a mildly better runner than Nick Foles, and we were used to, obviously, Nick Foles in this offense and how well he did in that Super Bowl. But I think the kind of offense we would see against them full bore, you're not going to see today. They're a 50-50 ball with Alshon Jeffrey kind of thing ruled out, not there. So all the sort of hypotheticals about where the Patriots might go matchup-wise, you could see Stephon Gilmore and Alshon going wire to wire, and I think that would be very reasonable and sort of an expectation. Then the conversation shifts to the guy on your screen, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has had a relatively mild season up until in the last couple of weeks. He had like a double-digit target game, and all of a sudden started hammering what we used to see Ertz getting. They have Dallas Goedert, who's another sort of top-ish tight end pick for them in the last couple of years. Went to South Dakota State, so I can't throw up birds on the air. But and I can't say swear words either, so I have a really difficult time talking about that because I went to the University of South Dakota, but screw him. Anyway, but the point of this is the first time the Patriots will have faced an offense that can actually lead with two tight ends who are both pass affinity kind of guys. They can both catch the ball pretty well. And Goddard actually can stretch the seam pretty well. Now, people out there may think, wait a minute, Baltimore ran a lot of tight ends. Baltimore did 2 and 3. Well, Baltimore's second and third tight ends, those were hulks. Those are 270-pound kind of guys. Boyle, Hurst, they're in there to block. They do a great job of that. They're really part of that misdirection kind of offense. This is different. I think this is the first time where both tight ends are pretty heavy pass targets. And in a normal week, Goddard's role is much milder, but that would presume Alshon Jeffrey on the field. That would presume Deshaun Jackson on the field. That would presume their top back, Jordan Howard, on the field. Now, of all those names that we just mentioned, I would actually advocate heavily for Jordan Howard to play. I know as a fan of the Patriots, you maybe say, hey, it's great that all their good guys are gone. Here's the thing, I believe it was a shoulder he's dealing with. He hadn't been cleared for contact yet, and we're talking about, and you're seeing flashed on your screen, all these shots of disruptive plays the Patriots had against other teams. And if you want to get a ball off guy, you want to start causing the ball disruption plays, the strips, the punches, all that kind of stuff. Get these turnover numbers back up and going like you're used to. It would be great to have even a good back, but a back that hasn't been cleared for contact until game day because he's having an issue with his shoulder. You're going to let go of the ball if you take big hits from that. So I think it actually might help the Eagles a slight bit that they said, you know what, we're not going to put a half-healthy guy out there, and we're going to roll with Miles Sanders, who's a younger back, that's more of a pass-catching guy. The one sequence I would alert fans to that sort of, as you watch this game against the Bears a couple of weeks ago, no, it was just last week for the Eagles, there was a 2-play sequence that should really give you a sense of what Miles Sanders is all about. Now, he's been in a complimentary role, so he hasn't gotten a chance to go wire to wire, a little closer to Singletary there in Buffalo as far as his skill set and size. Miles Sanders, they get backed up. It's a penalty to start at first and long, 20 or whatever, and they throw a screen pass to Miles Sanders. He looks sick, bob and weave, and gets in and out of everything. And now it's second and short where they've gotten that huge chunk of yardage back, and then they hand the ball off to Miles in a draw. So you got to see him in the pass, you got to see him on a draw. And he goes 11, 12 yards, what it was, spinning, making people miss. He's a really good back, and this is a really good offensive line. Their only issue is there are like 3 legitimate complementary pieces gone from that offense. So what they would be able to do on another week, I just don't think they're going to be able to do today.
And then as far as them coming off the bye, and I'm going to try not to get tongue-tied on this one. I don't know why. It's just so weird to say. But Patriots are 3-0 after a bye, after a loss. They're 14-4 just coming out of a bye.
Right.
They're also 47-9 just following a loss since 2003, which is really impressive. Yeah. What is it that Bill Belichick's able to do, not only with the rest during a bye week, but to get his team to rebound after a loss so successfully?
I'm going to call you out a little bit here, Michaela, because during the break you told me no math today. So 47-9 versus 3-0 times 6, carry the 4. What the hell are you talking about?
Really good.
Really good. Thank you. So the point is they usually win.
Exactly.
There we go. Got to the main point. So the idea here, though, I think is you have 2 factors in your favor, right? If it were 1, maybe not relevant, right? So if it's like, hey, they always win right off the bye, but then you're playing a team who's off the bye themselves, maybe that kind of negates that because usually that stat came from something where there was a differentiator on the other side, and there's not now, right? So you both have the same thing carrying forward. It'd be interesting to know what the stat was of what's their record when both teams have had a bye? Well, shoot, has that even ever happened? So maybe, the idea that they're good off the bye is typically because they're playing someone who isn't, so they're getting a little extra time and they're awesome with their preparation. Since that's not the condition here, I don't know if the comparative really even works. So the other thing I would say, though, off a loss, that's real. But if you want to put any stock in the bye portion, as somehow being maybe a notch above the other guy, in part because the other guy's issue is when most people come off byes, they get healthier. This team actually went into a bye less healthy than they're coming out of the bye. They went into a bye and lost 3 players, right? 3 important players for themselves. So I would say the fact that you've got two maybes make closer to a certain for me, and that's, again, bad math. But the idea that you're getting a little more time for Bill to prepare, and because what they're preparing for, which is I think unique, they're preparing to take forth an offense that hadn't worked together much. So that's a very important thing. Sanu's barely been here, right? Ben Watson, although he has, it's still just a couple weeks. This is really when you start to hit your stride. N'Keal Harry, they're working him up, ramping him up to work. What are you going to be able to be with this crew? And as far as the rest of the offensive line for the Patriots, I think that's very important. Obviously, Newhouse is the new body there at the left tackle spot, but it's another additional week to work together where those guys are all one unit, right? Shaq Mason was working with the ankle. He gets to be a little healthier. So I think this bye week, the performance will have to tell more than my mouth will. But I think this bye week should have been much more helpful for the Patriots than the other side. When you throw into the fact that, man, when they suck on a week, and they sucked last time they went out, they tend to come back more focused. They fix their problems really well. And most of the issues the Patriots had defensively against the Ravens got nothing to do with facing what the Eagles are going to put out there.
All right, well, let's now check in with a couple of guys who really take no days off. They were still at work during this Patriots bye week. Doug Kyed and Zach Cox in Philadelphia.
Thanks, guys. We're here in windy Philadelphia. The link there in the background. An intriguing matchup between the Patriots and the Eagles this week. But we are talking players to watch for the Patriots here against the Eagles. So who are you going to be paying close attention to for New England as they take on Philadelphia?
Former Eagle, Terrence Brooks, Patriots safety. The Patriots aren't going to have Patrick Chung in this game. Third time this season that Chung has been ruled out. He's still dealing with heel and chest injuries. So we could see Terrence Brooks play a significant role, especially against this Eagles team that loves to use 2 tight ends, is really kind of involves their tight ends in the passing game. And Terrence Brooks is a guy who came here over the offseason, we all expected him to just be another special teamer into that stable of special teamers with Matthew Slater and Nate Ebner and Brandon King and all of those names. He's actually played a surprisingly large role on defense this season, and he's done a pretty good job. He's played 124 coverage snaps this season, only allowed 4 catches, so he's really kind of made the most of his opportunity this season, and with Chung out, he's definitely going to get another opportunity here today.
Chung, also a former Eagle. My guy to watch, I'm throwing an audible out here. I was about to go with N'Keal Harry, but I'm going with the running back, James White. Because James White, I thought, ran the ball very well against the Baltimore Eagles despite the Patriots' Week 9 loss. And I feel like that might be the way to get this Patriots running game back in action, back in order, because when James White is on the field, opposing defenses think that the Patriots are passing the ball. And when they run the ball instead of with James White, that's when you get to actually churn up some yards there on the ground. Like I said, White did carry the ball well against the Ravens. And without James Devlin on this team and without his backup, Jakob Johnson, both those guys are on injured reserve, I think it would be wise for the Patriots to use some more zone runs, some more spread action, some stretch runs. And I feel like James White might be the guy to do that. The Patriots did not utilize White very heavily early in the season. They were using him as a pass catcher, but not much as a ball carrier. I think that could now flip now in the second half of the season, and we might start to see James White get some more carries as the Patriots' schedule gets more difficult, as it started to in Week 9 with the Baltimore Ravens. Now we got the Philadelphia Eagles on the docket, Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs. So this is the time when you need James White. I think that he might actually get a decent chunk of carries here against the Eagles. Let's send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Matt, time now to get your keys to the game. Let's start with your offensive key. What is it for the Patriots?
This is boring, Michaela, but it's red zone production. If I chose something else, it would be kind of silly, right? I think we know that I think the lesson here to be learned is something you can actually look at from the rest of the Eagles season. I like to do this. I think this is helpful analysis when you're leading into a week to check in on what their highest high is, right? What's the best thing they've done? And the Eagles had a win against the Packers, pretty solid team right now. I think just a 2-loss team, one of the better teams out there in the NFL. And in that particular game, even with the Eagles winning on the road in Green Bay had one of their highest yards total game to this point, 491 yards, something like that, almost 500 yards of offense by the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, so it's a top quarterback kind of situation, comparable to stuff today with Tom and his offense. They had a huge day of yards, and they didn't win. right? So I think the lesson there sort of connects a little bit with the Super Bowl. There was 608 yards or some 618, some stupid number in the Super Bowl, and we all know it hurt some people. They didn't win that game either. So the Philadelphia defense has a quality about them. Even the offense, whole crew has a quality about them. They get knocked around. They'll get punched. They're a very punchable group. But in occasion, they get up, right? And I think they've got a really strong offensive line. They've got a couple really good dudes on the inside. So as far as Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, so two guys inside, you've got to get blocked. But you can run up and down the field and up and down the field and get those yards. If you don't score, they can squeak them out. They can win the ugly game. So obviously this is a big week, as has been previous weeks, about really finishing those drives off, getting it done in the red zone. Interested to see if maybe Rex Burkhead gets a little more involved down there. Back out of the backfield, running angle routes, something you're not used to. Obviously Nikhil, we've talked about that. Maybe they isolate him some way, get him open, get him free, and see what he can do one-on-one. Maybe it's Malakoff at the tight end spot. Maybe it's Sanu more down there. Maybe it's just Julian. They got a lot of options, but they need to make good on one of them. Several of them. All of them. Why not?
And then how about defensively? What's the key?
Defensively. So my thing here with Doug Peterson is ultimate respect. I mean, I think he's done one of the better coaching jobs that you would ever have seen in the last few years that was a non-Belichick kind of game. I think Doug Peterson's Super Bowl performance was really good game planning, And what the Eagles do, you'll see this today, folks, if you're watching this at home, just count just until you get bored of it, a few series in, the different numbers of formations and the different numbers of play types that they run. Doug Peterson keeps your head spinning, especially with him getting an extra week. What I think the Patriots need to do defensively is survive the game plan plays, survive the goofiness. You can't, as a defense, I've been through this before with the team, you can't prepare for everything, and they're going to throw some stuff at you. They know you haven't seen. You need to survive it and adjust in game. So that's their best chance today. The goofy play stuff, shift motion, send 10 people one way and one the other kind of thing. Misdirect your attention, show you something. Maybe it's replication in their world of what you saw against Baltimore. But you're going to have to survive those. And once you've survived the game plan goofy plays, run fits have to be tight. And what that simply means is I think this offense is extreme. I know it's extremely limited, the Eagles offense, when they don't run the football well. They're pretty dependent on that, and they've got a great offensive line with Brooks and with potentially Jason Peter left side. We don't know that, but a guy around here we have a lot of appreciation for, Lane Johnson. We're not getting down that story, but he is a very good football player. Jason Kelsey, one of the best centers in football. They can move the ball on the ground. So survive the goofiness, get your run fits right, and get back to dominating on the ground. And I think you can be one. I think the Patriots can be one of these teams that keeps them also to less than 300 yards of total offense. Like I said, it's happened 3 times this year, and it's not just that the Eagles had those struggles against the better defenses. One was against a top 10 defense, one was at a more middling mid-teens, and one was a high 20s. So they've had bad days against the good, the average, and the better. So I think it's a real good day to mind those keys, and they'll maybe kick their ass.
Survive the goofiness. That
Survive
a
the
technical
goofiness.
term?
Very technical.
Okay.
Very technical.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to throw a few numbers at you again. I really don't know that there's any way around it because it's time for Chatham's choice. Patriots favored by 4 in this game. The over/under is 45. What are we going with?
The way I like to come to a conclusion here is argue the alternative. Argue against taking the Patriots at -4. Make a case. Could you make a case that you would trust, that you would throw money to the other side, that the Patriots wouldn't win with just that 4-point pad? I think it's a tough call. If we're on an even playing field here and you're coming off that Baltimore game and they're licking wounds and they didn't have the extra week and Philly's a full squad, they've got Alshon, they've got everything, well, then that's a different conversation. But I think when you chip away at it, no Deshaun and no Alshon, and you lose your top back, and the quarterback has been okay, but you strip away those extra layers of protection, and in the absence of that back, they lose Darren Sproles, who would be sort of the fill-in that you would expect to help. I mean, there's just too many reasons why it would be difficult to believe that the Eagles would win, and that's, I think, rooting interest in anyone to have a side. So this is, when we're talking wagering, it's, I think, more odds, and I think you'd have to make a really, really tough case for why the Patriots wouldn't cover on that -4. it would be a very, very tough sell. So I think that's the way you go this week. I think the points are too dangerous because there's a likelihood here that the Eagles get an absolute stall. They're missing so many people. The Eagles get held to 10 points, and all of a sudden you're really heavily relying on the Patriots to go put up 36, right? And I just think that's too speculative. I think the Patriots covering that -4 is the best gig you got to this week.
You know, Matt, you make a very compelling case.
I compel.
I trust you on this one.
Thank you. Well, it's been an up and down year on that, by the way, folks. No island buying. I think
Well, that's why I say it, though. This is the
appreciate
most
that.
faith I think I've had in you all season.
Oh, well, thank you.
So, yeah.
Very faithful. So one of the things also to keep track here, guys, is we are ahead of the game. It's been a roller coaster. We're not too far ahead of Juice right now, but this is a way to get back at it. We're going to start rolling with the safe
This is
stuff.
the week.
This
Just
is
like
it.
the Patriots, turning it around. And that'll do it for this pregame chat. Make sure to keep it on NESN.com. We've got Doug and Zach covering the game in Philly. They will have you hooked up with all the best Patriots news. Thanks for watching.
Bye!